It brings me so much joy that you're actually watching this video, because paying yourself first is the most important financial decision you will ever make in your life. In this video, I'm going to share why, what percent you should be setting aside, and then what you do with it. The pay yourself revolution has arrived. Somehow you figured out enough about it to Google it, or you're pit stopping here on the channel. And we're gonna talk about what percentage of money you should pay yourself first, PYF. And first, what does this even, where does this even come from? Like, pay yourself first? What's this about?
You know, this conversation is awesome. And for some reason, it's one that almost nobody follows.
Nope.
Like, we should want to pay ourselves first. We should feel that we are of enough worth, of enough value.
Dude, we busted our eye open to do that. I mean, 40, 50, 60 hours a week getting in the car, commuting and doing jobs we don't even like 87% of the
guys,
time.
pay yourself.
Yeah, so right now people are in the habit of taking money and we're doing well with it. I gotta pay my bills, I gotta pay you, I gotta pay you.
Pay off my home.
And then guess what? You get to the end of the month, you get to the end of the paycheck, and what's left for you?
This much.
Nothing. So what are you? You're a slave. You're modern day slave trade. This is what's going down. If you don't pay yourself, then guess what? Your money can't work for you. And if your money can't work for you, then all you're going to do is trade dollars for hours for the rest of your life until you die. But
preach it.
What a rich person does before they ever get rich is they start doing the PYF. Pay yourself first. And that means that when you start paying yourself, we'll talk about how much, you actually tuck yourself in at night, you tuck your kids in, you go put yourself in for Betty Bye, but you do one last thing before you sleep. You tell your money to get to work. You say, take that shovel, sling it over your shoulder, march. That money is working day and night for you, or you're working for it. Right now, it's time to get out of the modern day slave trade. It's called having a JOB, a just over broke. And bottom line, spending your time in your life doing something that you may not even like, and you're not even getting anything to show except for a basic behind the 8-ball lifestyle.
Guys, paying yourself first is how you get ahead. So if you've been going for 5 years, 10 years, 15 years, 20 years, and you're still not getting ahead, I will tell you, if you will follow this one principle, you will start today to get ahead, to start moving forward in life and actually set yourself up for real financial freedom. This is what the billionaires teach, this is what the millionaires teach, this is what everyone who has gotten ahead in their life is doing in a very powerful way.
So here's what you gotta understand. Money is a game. Making money is a game. And because money is a game, there are rules. Can you imagine trying to play the game of chess, but not understanding the difference between a pawn and a rook? It's like, you're cheating, dude. Why are you moving up 3 and over 2? Like, what are you doing? That makes no sense, right? That's crazy.
Yeah.
But the reality is that making money is easy when you understand the rules. And if you're check to check or thousands of dollars in debt, what we're gonna do is we're gonna tell you that this one principle, this is what one of my mentors, Tony Robbins, calls the most important financial decision of your life, is knowing what percent you're gonna pay yourself. And we're gonna give you 3 recommendations.
So real quick, before we get into recommendations, understand that if you've never paid yourself before, it can seem like it's gonna hurt, right? I mean, if you are paycheck to paycheck, and at the end of the month, you don't only not have enough, but you're in the hole, then this idea of paying yourself first—
there's no money to pay myself.
It's almost impossible,
No.
and you'll probably even tell yourself this is impossible.
No.
This is part of where the mindset comes in, because as you begin to pay yourself first, it actually does something to your mind. You begin to feel this interesting sense of freedom already, because now, although you have other bills to pay, you've already started to create a buffer. You started to create a cushion. You started to create monies that you can use to invest in wiser purposes than what you've already been using it for in the past.
Well, and you got to learn how to become the producer instead of the consumer. Listen, the consumer, they're buying the gadgets, they're checking out on Netflix, they're doing all the things to basically distract themselves from living life, probably because of your job that you don't like, or you're not willing to sacrifice or pay the price because it's too hard, or you just don't like it. And so we got to find a way to distract ourselves. But a producer, they get excited. They say, I'm going to pay myself first so I can put my money to work, because it'll start in really small amounts, but it's going to snowball. Mm-hmm. You know what a snowball does when it gets rolling down the mountain? It gets bigger and bigger and bigger until one day is crazy. Billionaires and millionaires, you know how they're all created? They'll all say the exact same way. It wasn't luck. If they still got the money, it wasn't luck. They got it because they hearkened to the principle. This comes from a book, Richest Man in Babylon. Great book, by the way. It's a classic. It's kind of written in biblical times language. It's very, very short. And one of the principles that it teaches about money is that you've got to pay yourself first. Now, the book will say you should pay yourself 10%. And I know some of you are like, I can't do that. And I know some of you are like, cakewalk. I want to put you into one of 3 different buckets right now because I love you. The first bucket is called check to check or behind the 8 ball. If that's your situation, I want you to save 3 to 5% of your income. Now, I get it. You're thinking, ain't gonna happen.
Stretch.
Listen to me.
Stretch.
If you pay yourself first, I swear the rest will work out one way or another. If you're doing okay financially, because Parkin's law says that we make plus or minus 10% of what we make. That's why it doesn't matter whether you make 30 grand a year or $300,000 a year or $3 million a year. Unless you're actually living this principle, there's just a really good chance
you're spending everything you're making.
Yep. So if you're kind of doing average, I want you to save 10%, just like Richest Man in Babylon says. But I want you to work up to a magic number called 20%. Why 20%? Because that snowball gets going where you can take decades and you can turn it into years. The whole reason why someone poor and behind the 8 ball can get where they want to go with a little bit of time is because of a magical financial device that exists in our day and age called compound interest. And if you understand, this is the most powerful, Einstein called this the most powerful financial innovation that's ever existed. Because compound interest, I want to go to David Bach for a moment, right? He wrote this book called Start Late, Finish Rich. And in his book, he created something called the latte factor. And the latte factor says, okay, latte is $5. You get in the habit of having a latte a day. What would happen if you could cancel that pattern and save $5 a day? Well, $5 a day, that's going to end up being how much a month? $150. That's not a whole lot of money. But guess how much that has grown to in 10 years at compounding interest of 10%. Right, Stephen and I, real estate, our whole channel here, we can show you how to make 10% compound interest. What happens 10 years from now is that $150 a month has turned into 300 grand. 20 years from now, it's turned into nearly $1 million. 50 years from now, it's turned into $25 million. Like even if you were just putting the latte down, not for your life, but for your grandkids, are you kidding what you could hand off to them? Small things become massive. Now the reality is that when you have a lot more money, it's going to snowball faster. You do a real estate deal, you join our Real Wealth team, and we send you a $4,000 or a $10,000 thank you check. Guess what happens to your pay itself money? We're talking about in short periods of time, amassing massive amounts of wealth. But real investing or real estate and the things that we talk about, it really comes down to whether you got the discipline to pay yourself first. And some of us aren't going to do it until we have a big enough what, Stephen?
A big enough why. Now, this is something that people have talked about for years and years and years. And actually, one of my good friends always says, if your why isn't big enough, if it's not strong enough and powerful enough to make you cry, it's not big enough. In other words, if it doesn't hit deep enough, then it's not going to keep you in that space of discomfort long enough to be able to see the success.
And a lot of people will say, why does my why need to be emotional? I'll tell you why. Your why has to be bigger than any opposition you're going to face. How big does your why need to be? Big enough to beat out any opposition. Because, by the way, if you don't have a big enough why and bigger opposition comes, guess what it'll do to your why? Kersplat. And then guess what happens? You'll break, you'll fall down, you'll classify it as failure, you'll create a limiting belief, and all of a sudden the things that you wanted to do and create and become in your life, they're all gone because you said, well, I'm a pretty strong human being until I face enough adversary opposition that I can't overcome it. Having a big enough drive, like what is it that really drives you? And here's a clue question for you to ask yourself. Whose people's pain do you feel the most? For me, we talk about the sex slave trade and the fact that little girls are stolen from their homes and are chained to beds, put on drugs, and they're asked to basically witness horrific evil. That for me, that's a pain that I feel so keenly that I've got massive financial goals to make money. In the coming years, I'm working towards an endowment fund of $100 million. So every year there's $10 million that can go to that and other causes that absolutely move me, right? Now, the beautiful thing is I have the ability to do something to help today, like through an organization called Underground Railroad, and it might be smaller today than what it's going to be in the future, but I'm taking action on it and it moves me. What gets visceral for you? Whose pain do you feel? Because if you have the ability to solve those problems in this world, you might have just found a why. Big enough to pay yourself the amount of money that you need to solve the solutions for the tiny day-to-day stuff, figure out how to save some money here, and ultimately, by paying yourself first, in time will allow you to do anything that you want. Okay, I'm gonna ask you a question. You gotta respond out loud. What percentage at this particular point in your life are you gonna be setting aside? Well done, good job. Let me ask you, in the future, when things are doing financially better, what percentage then are you gonna be setting aside? Oh my gosh, you're amazing. Way to go. Friends, that is the beginning of the end. That's the beginning of getting really where you want to go. If you want to learn a lot more about that, come over to my website, look at some of my different events, ways that we can play, some of the ways that we can start rocking it out in real estate, and expose you to a world of investments that ultimately will help you fulfill your life's purpose, your dreams, and bring you the fulfillment that we're all searching for.